PennDOT investigated and relayed that they were not involved in the closure as it is for a filming event. The filming will be for the Paramount Plus series Mayor of Kingstown, starring Jeremy Renner. The series takes place in Pittsburgh, and the administration of Governor Josh Shapiro recently stated the production of the show has brought over $90 million into the local Pittsburgh region economy, along with creating more jobs. Alternate routes will be designated during the closure to redirect traffic, and appropriate detour signage will be in place to guide motorists. Delays and increased traffic volumes will be expected. Some restrictions will be taking place on the I-279 Fort Duquesne Bridge and associated ramps in Pittsburgh starting today. Today and tomorrow, single-lane restrictions will occur in the southbound lanes of the southern end of the Fort Duquesne Bridge from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., while all ramps will remain open from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. On Saturday, single-lane restrictions will occur on the northbound lane of I-279 approaching the Fort Duquesne Bridge from 6 a.m. until noon, and on Sunday, single-lane restrictions will occur on the 10th Street bypass ramp to the Fort Duquesne Bridge from 6 a.m. until noon. Crews are conducting routine inspections. Republican lawmakers in Pennsylvania Wednesday rolled out a counterproposal to Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro's plan to boost college enrollment in PA. The plan they unveiled Wednesday pledges help for both in-state and out-of-state students who enroll in degree programs for high-priority disciplines such as teaching and nursing. The proposal revolves around grants and tuition discounts. Top Republicans also signaled that key elements of Shapiro's higher education plan rolled out earlier this year are essentially dead in the legislature. Republicans view their proposal as an effort to counter the demographic trend of a shrinking workforce in Pennsylvania, declining enrollments in higher education institutions, and shortages in high-need disciplines. And the Transportation Security Administration says they intercepted 1,503 firearms at airport security checkpoints during the first quarter of 2024, which ended on March 31st. The total represents an average of 16.5 firearms per day detected at TSA checkpoints. TSA does not confiscate or seize firearms. If a passenger brings a firearm to the security checkpoint on their person or in their carry-on luggage, the officer will contact local law enforcement to safely unload and take possession of the firearm. Law enforcement may also arrest or cite the passenger depending on local law. TSA may impose a civil penalty of up to almost $15,000, and for a first offense, passengers who bring a firearm to a checkpoint will lose TSA pre-check eligibility for 5 years, and second offenses will result in permanent disqualification from the program, along with additional civil penalties. Our newscast this hour is being brought to you by St. Barnabas, the perfect place for mom.
Honey, I found the perfect place for my parents and us.
Where?
St. Barnabas. For us, the Woodlands Carriage Home Community. And for my parents, condominium-style living at the Village. My folks will love the Village. There's an indoor mall with shops, restaurants, and more. And we can relax, knowing they're safe and secure.
That's what I plan to do when we move to St. Barnabas. Relax.
Call 724-444-5568 or visit stbarnabascommunities.com.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Showers with possible afternoon thunderstorms. We get to a high of 67 today. More rain tonight. We could see a few thunderstorms as well. It'll be very breezy with wind gusts as high as 35 miles per hour. We'll drop down to a low of 47. Rain throughout the day tomorrow with a possibility of afternoon thunderstorms. We'll see a high near 52. Some much needed sunshine in the forecast for Saturday. We'll reach a high of 58. And Sunday, look for partly sunny skies with a slight chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms. We'll see a high near 73. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Thursday, April the 11th of 2024, at 11 minutes past 9, we've got a temperature of 61 degrees with cloudy skies in Brighton Township. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Now, it's time to talk on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and beavercountyradio.com. And now, here is the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
There are a whole lot of moving parts to today's program. Whether I will be able to juggle them or not be able to juggle them, we'll see, won't we? Here's what's going on from back to front. At 11:35, Scott Tatey is going to come in here like he does on every Thursday. But today, there is a major announcement. I don't know what it is, and I'm fine with that. If I don't need to know, don't tell me. I'll just forget it anyway and feel bad. Major announcements happening when Tatey comes in here at 11:35. From 11 to 11:30, Mike Romine, the Best of Beaver County, is going to be talking about the Maple Syrup and Music Festival that's coming up next weekend at Brady's Run. And the first hour, I don't plan to hit a lick because I'm going to put my guest underneath it. Josh Kail is on the phone. Jim Marshall is here rapping with the reps. Let me check. Josh, you there? You good?
I am here, Eddie. How are you?
Jim, I'm good, man. Jim Marshall is here in the studio. This is being live streamed. Jim, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you, Eddie.
Showed up and
I wish I could be there in the Fried Transportation studio.
All right.
It's got to be one of the best.
All right. I'm going to be a typical voter right now with my first question for you, Josh. Ready? What are you doing out getting paid by me? Why ain't you there? What are you off doing? Shouldn't you be in Harrisburg?
Well,
Shouldn't you be somewhere?
Part of my role within the Republican caucus is what's called the policy chair. And we go around the state and have hearings in different parts of the state on issues that affect us in Beaver County, issues that affect others across the Commonwealth. So today we're having a hearing on tax reform for small business and how we can help our small businesses. We're doing it in Columbiana County. So I'm out to the eastern part of the state right now.
All right. I'll ask you first, Josh, and then, Jim, I'm going to ask you. What one thing can be done to help small businesses? We watched a lot of them go away because of COVID. Are they coming back? How can we help them come back?
I think what we have to take a posture within Harrisburg to get out of the way. We have to let these entrepreneurs do what they do best, which is be innovative and let them use their money to reinvest it in the community instead of policing them at every turn that we get.
Jim, are we in their way?
All the time, Eddie. I mean, businesses need affordable, reliable energy. They need a tax plan that works. There's so much red tape, so many hoops to jump through, and we need to get that fixed because small businesses drive our economy.
Do you have hope that it can get fixed?
Is
there one sweeping set of rules that you could pull out and say, okay, everything's fine, go?
It's one step at a time, and I believe this administration's been focused on that, and we're hopeful that the General Assembly can work with the governor and at least get one thing done at a time.
Josh Kail and Jim Marshall are my guests, rapping with the reps on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. Is this going to be a group, everybody, Josh, Democrats and Republicans, that you think is going to be able to get along? Because you've told me before, when new people come in, it changes the dynamic. Do you have hope for a cooperative dynamic?
I think as we go into the budget season, I do believe that this year is going to be smoother than last year. I think that there are a number of different things that we have common ground on, in particular with the governor. And I think we got to focus on that. The governor talks about tax reform. He talks about permitting reform. He talks about school choice initiatives. Those are the things that we found common ground with him, and those are the things that we ought to be working towards. And look, last year was the first time for everybody. It was the first time for the Democrats in the House. It was the first time for the new leadership team in the Senate, and it was the first time for the governor negotiating a budget, and it was rocky. And I think the parties have learned, and we'll see if we do it in a little more of an efficient and effective way this year. I think we will.
Josh Kail and Jim Marshall, how long's it been, Jim, since you announced that you weren't running for re-election? It's been a few months, yeah?
Oh,
Don't break my heart, Eddie.
when was that, Eddie?
I don't know. It was here.
Last November, wasn't it?
Hey,
It
Josh,
was right here. It was right here on
Yeah.
this station on this.
listen to
Your
Kail.
show.
Listen to Kail. All right, Josh. Are you jealous?
It was a day of infamy. It was a day of infamy.
Jim, I do want to ask you this. Knowing that you ain't got to deal with getting reelected and all of that stuff because you announced you're not going to run for reelection, how has that changed your approach in dealing with everybody in Harrisburg? Has it?
No, not really. I'm still focused on the remainder of this term.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot yet to be done this year, and it hasn't changed too much. The gentleman that sits next to me on the floor, I had more conversations with him about this is going to be it, and hope to stay in touch. But in general, no, it's just focused on work.
Is it easier to focus? Not the work.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
To some extent, we all are on a 2-year cycle of election, re-election, and you get accustomed to that. You can juggle running for the office and working in the office. And I've been fortunate. I haven't had to focus too much on re-elections, but there are a lot of members that, every single minute of the day, they're wondering what their opponent's doing, or they're wondering if their message is getting out, and that can be consuming. Now we try to balance that, but I don't have that other issue that I have to work on re-election right now. So I think it is a little bit easier.
Josh, let me ask you this. What are the plans, and how definite are the plans moving forward for your party and electable offices?
Yeah, so right now there's about 7 to 10 competitive seats that we're looking at across the Commonwealth. I think it's realistic in this upcoming cycle and this upcoming season that we could flip 3 or 4 of them, maybe more, maybe less, depending on what the actual turnout is, what the mood of the day is. But it's certainly within the realm of possibility. And the same is true for Democrats. Depending on how well they run campaigns, depending on how the political climate is, there's going to be the potential for very competitive races across the Commonwealth. I suspect that we will be back in the majority in after the election with about 104 seats. That's my guess.
What makes, when you look at the different districts, what makes you choose those 6 or 7 and say those are winnable? What do you look for to convince you that's worth it?
Yeah, sure. You dive into the numbers of the particular district. That's where you go first. But then you also have to appreciate what's happening around you, and in politics at the state house level, what's happening what we call above you, meaning who's on the ballot, right? So President Trump going against President Biden creates a certain dynamic that in some areas is gold and in other areas is dynamite. So you just got to, know that in certain areas it's going to negatively impact us, and in other areas it's going to negatively impact Democrats. And that goes into the calculus of where you put resources and where you're focused. But honestly, though, Eddie, with the state house, it's so granular that you can break through national brands if you have a good candidate. So that's the other part of this. And we spent 7 months going around looking for candidates across the entire Commonwealth. And we really were looking for high-quality candidates that matched their district. We're not looking for mannequins that could run for president. We're looking for people that are involved in their community, that care about their community, that want to get in for the right reasons, that have high energy and can articulate their positions. And in a lot of these districts, we found that. And I think that is also going to make a massive difference, even in the districts where the top of the ticket may not help as much.
Jim, I'm going to ask you this. You're leaving a vacant seat. How much input and how much interest do you have in what happens to that seat?
Oh, I have a lot. I mean,
Okay.
I want to see a smooth transition. I want to help the candidate that's elected. I don't want them to have to come into it and recreate the wheel. We have a great staff in the district, and we're experienced, and I just want to make sure that there's a smooth transition.
What makes a good candidate, Jim?
I've seen a lot of members in the House that were previously staff members are really good at what they do. So
they work their way up. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. They understand that when people come to the district with a problem and that's solved, a lot of times the member gets the credit, but the staff do the work. And then if there's a constituent that comes in and just can't get that issue resolved for some reason, the staff gets the blame and the member doesn't. So it's always tougher on the staff. So people that understand that and appreciate that and work to make sure that they have the best staff out there, they're usually more successful.
Josh, how many people do you have on your staff?
So in my district office, I have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I got Monica, Erica, and Karen, and they are fantastic staff. They do a great job of doing the constituent work and working with constituents and solving problems for people. And they also navigate my schedule and making sure I'm meeting with people and making sure that I have the time that needs to go into the job. And then they set up my town halls, different events, and other stuff. So I have a great group in the district office, and we ought to have them on sometime.
Right.
That we should get Monica and Erica and Karen on the radio.
Oh, I'm down. I'm down for that.
What do you think about that, Jim?
That would be brilliant. That would be.
I agree.
Jim, how many staff members do you have that we could get secrets from about you once you don't got to get reelected and they come in and talk?
Wow, I don't think there are any secrets about me. I'm pretty transparent, Eddie. But I have 3 in the district, and they do a fantastic job.
What makes a good staff member? Because what Josh just said, you ain't going to get none of the credit, and you're going to get all the blame. That's a tough spot.
Someone that's down to earth and humble, and faces the same day-to-day issues that the constituents do when they come in. Someone that can relate and understand. Someone that could be calming. Sometimes just that they have a great sense of humor. They make the constituents that come in or that call feel comfortable and feel that this person gets it.
They can relate.
They relate, and that's so important. And it's hard to find that. I've been really lucky. Jess is the newest in my office. I found her at the polling place last fall. She was running a write-in for council, and I said, well, what do you do when you're not doing this? And then why don't you send me your resume? And she's like a homesteader, farmer, great person. Terry and Dorinda work with her, and they're a great team. You can't often find that on a job site or through other programs. Sometimes you just have to just find the person and make that first initial contact. But I'm blessed. I have.
Hey, Eddie.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Jim. Jim does have great staff, but I did just get a text from my staff, and Monica said she's absolutely in. And whenever you want to have the radio, she's willing and able to talk.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you and I talked? I've never talked to Monica. I think it'll be a fun time for anybody. And I'm going to ask him about dirt.
Do all three. It'll be great.
All right.
I also got a text from Monica. It's a little different than his text, though.
Well, now I'm way more interested in yours, Jim.
Well, I can't tell you. It's all capital letters, though.
I appreciate the passion of it. Okay. Jim Marshall.
Excited about
Oh, she's excited.
Said
I'm sure.
excited, wound up. It's a thin line, Mr. Kail. Josh Kail and Jim Marshall are my guests, state representatives. We're wrapping with the reps. It will continue, and we might upset Monica more after the news on Teleforum.
Falling in love is one thing. Having anxiety about falling is a whole different subject. If you or a family member are concerned about falling, and yes, either up or down the stairs, or maybe even out of bed, St. Barnabas has a special message and some ideas just for you. Years of experience in working with people who are prone to falls has given St. Barnabas special expertise in this area. Call them at 724-443-0700 and learn about ways that you can begin to feel more confident and safe, including suggestions that you can implement right now into your daily routine. Call St. Barnabas at 724-443-0700. For many years now, St. Barnabas has been helping people fall, in love that is, with their new, better life, a longer life, a risk-free life. Call St. Barnabas now at 724-443-0700 or visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com and learn more about living longer and better.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does. And when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning on this Thursday, April the 11th of 2024. Here at 30 minutes past 9, we've got a temperature of 62 degrees with cloudy skies in Beaver County. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after this look at news. A common shortcut between Beaver Falls and Patterson Township, Ross Hill, reopened yesterday. The road closed last November, with the city of Beaver Falls saying the closure was due to an increasing number of reportable accidents. Drivers should be aware of a new decreased speed limit in place on the road of 15 miles per hour. Minor work has been reportedly done to the road to decrease the slippiness at the bottom of the hill when it's wet. Donald C. Walker III received the Betsy Stockton Bobby Moe Award from Robert Morris University. The award was presented to him for his countless commitment to the city of Aliquippa and the community. Councilman Walker has been working for the Private Industry Council at Head Start of Beaver County as a parent, family, and community engagement manager for the past year. The office is in the Aliquippa Elementary School. Both the councilman and his twin brother, Mayor Dwan B. Walker, are both RMU graduates. The lawyers who negotiated a $600 million settlement with Norfolk Southern over the East Palestine derailment want residents to talk with them before deciding the historic deal isn't enough. After all, they said Wednesday that this settlement for everyone within 20 miles of the East Palestine derailment is bigger than any past derailment settlement that has been made public. And the amount that residents receive will vary based on how much the derailment devastated them. Residents like gas station owner Anna Doss are hopeful the settlement will help the town take another step forward, but the fear of possible long-term health problems still lingers, and railroad safety reforms haven't been passed yet. A resident of McKees Rocks pled guilty in federal court to a charge of possession with the intent to distribute fentanyl. Devon Lamont Johnson, 36, pled guilty to one count before United States Chief District Judge Mark Hornack. In connection with the guilty plea, the court was advised that after a controlled purchase of fentanyl was made from Johnson, Allegheny County detectives executed a search warrant for the McKees Rocks residence from which Johnson was selling fentanyl. The search revealed distribution quantities of fentanyl consistent with the drugs Johnson had sold during the controlled purchase. According to court documents filed by the government, Johnson has 2 prior drug trafficking convictions, including one for distribution of heroin in the federal court in the Northern District of West Virginia. Sentencing is scheduled for September 11th of this year. A joyful celebration at the end of Ramadan developed into panic Wednesday in Philadelphia after rival groups exchanged gunfire, leaving at least 3 people injured. Hundreds of parents and children fled the event in the city's Parkside neighborhood after the 2:30 p.m. shooting. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel says about 30 shots rang out during a gunfight between rival groups. Bethel says that 5 people are in custody. They include a 15-year-old boy who police say had a gun and was shot in the leg and shoulder. Officials say one man was shot in the stomach and a juvenile victim suffered a wound to the hand. And Ford is recalling nearly 43,000 small SUVs because gasoline can leak from the fuel injectors on the hot engine surfaces, increasing the risk of fires. But the recall doesn't exactly fix the fuel leaks. It covers certain Bronco Sport SUVs from the 2022 and 23 model years, as well as Escape SUVs from 2022, all with 1.5-liter engines. Ford says fuel injectors can crack and gasoline or vapor can accumulate near ignition sources. Dealers will install a tube to let gas flow away from hot surfaces to the ground. They'll also update software to detect a fuel pressure drop. If that happens, the software will disable the high-pressure fuel pump, reduce engine power, and cut temperatures in the engine compartment. Owners were to be notified starting on April 1st.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Showers with possible afternoon thunderstorms. We get to a high of 67 today. More rain tonight. We could see a few thunderstorms as well. It'll be very breezy with wind gusts as high as 35 miles per hour. We'll drop down to a low of 47. Rain throughout the day tomorrow with a possibility of afternoon thunderstorms. We'll see a high near 52. Some much needed sunshine in the forecast for Saturday. We'll reach a high of 58. And Sunday, look for partly sunny skies with a slight chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms. We'll see a high near 73. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Thursday, April the 11th of 2024, at 35 past 9, we've got a temperature of 62 degrees with cloudy skies in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Talk about what's happening in Beaver County or around the world on Teleforum. 724-843-1888. 724-774-1888. It's Teleforum with Eddie Crow.
It is indeed that. The first hour is Rapping with the Reps. Josh Kail is my guest on the phone. Jim Marshall is my guest here in the studio. Josh, I still got you. I know you're driving.
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
I want to ask you a question. If you can get one thing accomplished this session, what would it be?
You know, I'd like to finish off what we started last summer with our school choice initiative, the Lifeline Scholarship the governor said he agreed to. And we almost had it. The House Democrats kind of put a roadblock up. And I'm hoping that the governor brings it back up again to apply pressure to the House Democrats and that we can actually move the ball forward for kids that are in failing school districts, give them a chance to go to schools that make sense for them.
Jim, what do you hope to accomplish? This could be your legacy.
I don't know about legacies, Eddie. I mean, I try to get legislation done every year. It's usually from someone in the district, and whether it's the ability to hunt from a wheelchair that I've done in the past, or Down syndrome awareness, or transportation issues. You know, I work every year on legislation, and I really don't see a legacy. I would like to see the administration get honed in on reforming just some of the backlog in DEP, but the regulations there are so strict, and I just think there's ways that they could streamline permitting there.
Is that a little bit of swimming uphill because of what we've seen going with East Palestine? Is that a tougher argument after Norfolk Southern?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the federal EPA came in and did a great job there. The administration came in and stayed. I mean, they were in Darlington for months with healthcare and agriculture, testing air and soil, worked well with the Farm Bureau. I think the administration did a great job in Darlington, and Darlington was just recognized yesterday. The township themselves, the commissioners came up and received a Governor's Excellent Award in Harrisburg yesterday. So I think that's worked out well, and I think it's unrelated to reforming permitting in DEP.
All right, I'm going to go back to legacy. 5 years from now, when you're 5 years away from Harrisburg, will the idea of your legacy, will that pop up in your head? Will you think about it then?
I hope not.
You hope not? Why?
Yeah. We're placeholders. I mean, we really are. It's the institution's bigger than us. I think 5 years from now, they'll say to the person sitting there, who was your predecessor? And I won't be disappointed if there's some head scratching. We're just placeholders.
All right, I'm going to throw Mr. Kail under the bus. Mr. Kail, what do you think Jim Marshall's legacy will be? Even though he doesn't want one.
I agree with what Jim is saying. Is from a legacy standpoint, there's all these talks about that, and governors and presidents talk about legacies, and I think Jim hit the nail on the head on that. I will say, when you look back 5 years from now and you think about Jim Marshall, I think what you're going to see is the guy is a pioneer. He's the guy that paved the way for the rest of Beaver County. He was the first one to have the guts to do it and the ability to actually execute on it. He came in and set a brand for Republicans in Beaver County that is serious. It's about getting things done for your constituents. It's about community and helping your neighbors. And it's not about beating your chest and getting out there and doing all the other things that so many of us dislike about politics today. I think that's what people are going to think of when they think of Jim Marshall. It's what I think of when I think of Jim Marshall, a mentor, somebody that's a friend, somebody that cares about you personally. And he is going to be sorely missed in Harrisburg, but he's going to be around. He's going to be around for much, much longer than 5 years, Eddie. And we'll be working with him, and we might have to drag him onto the show every once in a while to get an update and see how he's taken over whatever world he's in. And we'll have to get updates every once in a while. But we still got some time left to do some work. And what Jim was talking about with permitting, I just wanted to pipe in a little bit. I had a hearing in Washington County last month, and it was about a dam that got shut down by DEP, and they have not been able to get their permit approved since 1981.
Wait. How is that possible? How many administrations ignored them to go back?
It is crazy. Where they send in an application, DEP sends back changes they need to make. They make the changes. They submit it back in. DEP sends back more changes. This has been going on for some 40 years now.
Yeah,
that's just one extreme example, but there are examples of permitting being botched across the entire Commonwealth. And Jim's right. The administration, they're the ones that have the ability to clean it up and to make it more efficient. We will act as a legislature because we're forced to, because it hasn't been cleaned up. but that's something that the administration could get on top of today and fix by the end of the month, realistically, because it's their agencies. But Jim is right, and it's something that we ought to be focused on.
What's the excuse for something sitting on somebody's desk since I was in high school? How do they justify
I have
that?
no idea. It's incredible. The whole thing's incredible. I mean, the dam was declared shaky, and I don't know what the technical term is. I don't think declared shaky.
Slippy.
Is
yeah,
the
but
technical term.
it's a slippy dam. You don't want a slippy dam.
But the community there used to use the lake that it created as the people would fish there. They do all kinds of stuff there, and they haven't been able to use it in decades because of the Department of Environmental Protection just continually playing games with this community.
That is absolutely mind-boggling. Josh Kail's on the phone. Jim Marshall's here in the studio, and we're wrapping with the reps. Jim, what reputation does Pennsylvania have when multinational corporations or people looking to do business? What is the reputation that comes to mind when somebody's looking to build a new anything when they think of PA?
That's really above my pay grade, Eddie. I think the struggles that any business has, they're looking for interstates and airports. And when Congress and the state got together and made 376 some years ago, even our county commissioners, that was significant for us to get the Shell plant, because they looked at that interstate. They didn't look at, it's Route 22 and 30 for a while. It's whatever, Route 51 or Route 18. They're looking for interstates and airports. So the challenges with Pennsylvania are probably driven by our municipalities. We have so many municipalities, and when you're trying to run a business through several of them, it can be burdensome. Municipalities are also are gold for us too, because they're like the patches in a quilt. That they make who we are. We got that way from the way Europe was, and other states that are successful, Ohio or Virginia or Florida, that are more county based than municipal based. We're competing with them. So those are challenges. We have a lot to offer. We have to utilize the energy that we have here, the great workforce, the transportation that we have here, whether it's highway, rail, or air traffic. We have a lot to give. It's just that we have to work harder to make sure that large corporations see that.
Mr. Kail, what is the number one attribute that we could be using to sell PA to people that we're not using or underusing?
I think we ought to be celebrating, leveraging, and getting the most out of our affordable, abundant natural gas resources. That could turn into reindustrialization, manufacturing at a time in U.S. history when there's a serious push to do just that. We could be at the forefront of that, while at the same time creating, thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and helping consumers with lower costs because we're making our goods here, and helping the environment because we're not dependent on Chinese pollution anymore with their manufactured goods when we're making it here. It's a win across the board that we ought to be getting the most out of. And Jim hit the nail on the head again. I mean, there's challenges in Pennsylvania and there's opportunities. And the opportunities derive from that perfect formula that we have in this Commonwealth of natural resources, of access to markets, of a resilient workforce, of access to capital, and really what has gotten in the way as challenges is Harrisburg over the course of the last 60, 70 years, with agencies that run amok like the Department of Environmental Protection with the permitting process, with increased taxes on companies and small businesses. If we changed these things and made some tweaks, and got out of the way, really, you would see a Commonwealth that is reindustrialized, that is leading the United States in manufacturing again, in particular in Western Pennsylvania, and leading the world in clean manufacturing. And we have the ability to do that. That's not a fairy tale. That's something that we can accomplish, and it is happening in some places, including here in Beaver County, but we could be doing a whole lot more.
I wanted to take the opportunity that I've got both of you. It's Rapping with the Reps. Josh Kail is on the phone, and Jim Marshall is here. Since the last time we spoke, a medicinal marijuana facility opened up, and there was a lot of hullabaloo about that. I want to get your thoughts not on medicinal, but rather recreational, because, Josh, you were talking about other states, and Jim and I were talking off air. It's all around us, the recreational side of it. Josh, I'd like to get your thoughts first about that.
Look, there is there's a conversation that needs to be had on this. And there's the obvious kind of statement or the obvious situation where states are going towards recreational use. It's happening all around us, and you have to take that into consideration. You can't just look at it in an isolated incident, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we have data now showing the negative impact of legalization, and you have situations like what you have in Oregon, where the state clearly went too far, and now they're trying to backpedal, where they decriminalized cocaine and heroin and everything. And so it's a balancing act. I am not, as a father of 8, I am not a big fan of the possibility of marijuana being everywhere, being at gas stations, being at grocery stores. But at the same time, I also recognize that this is probably where things are heading, and if we're going to do this, we ought to do it in a way that makes sense. I have a hard time coming out with a strong I support this, though. I just don't like the idea of it. You got to recognize where things are.
Jim?
We're representatives that are elected to hear from 60+ thousand people on issues, and then hopefully be able to vote on what we hear from a majority of those people. So what my opinion is or isn't on this is pretty much irrelevant. It's what people want. And there's groups of people that say there's too much government intervention already.
Right. Like the DEP.
Sure. And, the government says, well, you should wear a helmet or not on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. The government...
Seat belts.
Seat belts or not. You want people to be safe, but how much regulation do we want? There's a lot of people that just want the freedom of choice, whether to smoke marijuana or not smoke. And I've heard from DAs and first responders and, that there are problems, and as with anything, if you can abuse anything, alcohol, mm-hmm. gaming, drugs, many things like that. Even people that make maybe more purchases than they should. How much regulation do we really need? I look forward to hearing from people in the 14th District what their opinion on this as we develop our opinions on this issue.
One thing, and it just popped into my head, and Mr. Kail, I'll start with you. I noticed that you're talking to me hands-free on your phone, correct?
I am, yes. I have Bluetooth, yeah.
Okay. Can we please start locking people up forever that sit at a stoplight on their phone and jack everything up?
So there was just a bill that passed this week.
Right. This week I saw.
So I don't think we'll be locking anybody up, but it is now a primary offense while you're driving. I actually voted against it. I think you voted for it. I understand the argument for it. I just, what about the people that don't have the Bluetooth systems, that have older cars?
Yeah.
It's a distinct disadvantage and puts them in a worse place. But I understand it. I get it. It's dangerous. I see it all the time. I'm driving on the road all the time, so I appreciate the thought, and I think it does make sense to a degree, but I'm thinking it went a little bit too far with what they're doing. But yeah, I
lock them up.
I don't know that.
On the way here,
locking people.
On the way here this morning, I'm driving up the road, and this car is driving slower and slower and slower.
Right.
And, sure, it's a little slippy out there today, but they're driving below the speed limit. I'm wondering what's going on. It's like,
could be a medical emergency.
As I carefully go past the car, I see that the guy's on the phone. He has it in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be just that it's in his hand. It may the conversation may be so engrossed that he's slowing down. But, we do see the craziest things as much time as we're on the highway. But handheld, it can be dangerous. I mean, eating a hamburger can be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Singing or crying while you're driving can be dangerous. All that. That's all distracted driving. It's all already a secondary offense. And
you're on the phone crying to your friend that you just ate your 7th cheeseburger and you feel guilty. You're a menace at that point.
Sure. Who hasn't driven with their knees while they're trying to eat a Big Mac or something too, right?
Mr.
I
Kail,
like a good Big Mac.
Mr. Kail, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't? Thank you for taking the time while you were driving hands-free today. I appreciate it.
I'm just disappointed we got the Big Mac late in the program. I like Big Mac. I haven't had one in years. And I don't know. Maybe we can go get a. And the other thing is, I love the idea of getting our staff on here. I think that would be great. Present them as resources. They are. They do a great job. I think I'll talk with you, Eddie, about doing that. And the final thing I'd like to say is I miss the Fry Transportation studio there. It's the best studio, and it's right next to my house now. And I'm looking forward to getting that there next month, hopefully, if not sooner.
You are good to go with anybody's staff. You bring them, and we'll do it. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Kail. Mr. Marshall, what should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, I know you wanted to talk to Josh a little bit about the Maple Syrup Festival that's coming up. You did mention that.
Yeah.
I guess when you said legacy, what stakeholders have told me is they're sad to see me go because they'll miss the Marshall Matsey committee
willingness to work
together. And I know I'm always going to be friends with Rob Matsey after this, but the pleasure of co-chairing the same important committee with him has been so rewarding, and that's something that I think not only I'll miss, but from what I've heard, a lot of people in Harrisburg will miss as well.
Well, I appreciate you coming by, and you're welcome anytime, especially when you got all the free time. Do you know what day you're officially no longer a state rep? Or
my last official day is November 30th.
November 30th. You want to have a party? You gonna?
Probably not. We'll see.
You're getting cupcakes.
Okay.
I'll tell you that right now. Jim Marshall and Josh Kail, state representatives, has been rapping with the reps. That hour absolutely flew.
Thinking of what's good for lunch or dinner? Make it McDonald's with a hot and spicy McChicken sandwich available now for a limited time only. Enjoy crispy, tender chicken seasoned with a bold mix of spices, topped with shredded lettuce mayo, and served on a perfectly toasted bun. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Beaver County Radio, your hometown radio station. You're listening live.